You're listening to the Sidewalk Prophet.
Here we go. So let's get into it. At some point, as church members, our hearts turned in on ourselves. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. There's a big difference between our mission, our original mission as go ye into the world. And now in church, that has become, Lord, bless me, bless my family, bless my country. You know what I mean? So instead of the go ye into the world, our prayers are directed at us, our country, and ourselves. The disciples, they didn't pray like that. The disciples didn't pray like that. Jesus didn't pray like that. When you have God, you pray God. So when you have a connection with God, you pray like God prays. They prayed tools for us to do the work. So their prayers were more in line with things like more grace. So they prayed for more grace to do the work. They prayed for manifold wisdom to do the work. They prayed for revelation. They prayed for God's empowering presence. God empower them to go ye into the world. That's more of what their prayers were. Our prayers are a lot of times centered around ourselves. Now, I know Jesus gave us the mission to go into your area, then go into this area, then go into that area. So I understand that. But as far as the prayers, so we were commanded to take his presence and go into these areas. But as far as our prayers should be directed toward manifold wisdom and things like that. We should sound a lot more like them. If you want to wake up the presence of God in you, you have to turn your heart to, I won't say have to. You want to turn your heart to what interests him. Jesus is interested in the world. Now, not to say your family and your stuff is not important. You know, I pray for my family every day, so I'm not saying that it's not important. But that can't be the focus. The focus has to be the people out there in the world, the lost. That's what their prayers are. That's what they were asking for wisdom for. My family is going to be fine. I have the presence of God in and on me. I operate and flow in it. They're going to be fine. And I got to know that. But I honestly believe when Jesus hears you keep praying that direction, in that almost like that selfish me direction, it's almost like you don't understand what you already have. You know what I mean? It's like you don't understand the presence that he's already given you. You know, you already have him. You know, what else do you need? I'll give you an example. When I sit down to teach, I'm very comfortable flowing in this circle. But God wants me comfortable when I get on the bus. He wants me comfortable when I'm in the office. You know what I mean? He wants that presence on us everywhere. And I really, truly believe that when our heart turns outward, instead of turning inward and always thinking about our own concerns, when our heart turns outward, we're going to have better and more access to the things of God. Because then we're going to be praying more in line with him and how he wants us to pray. And Christians used to be wired like that. Paul prayed for grace on the church. Like you would hear him multiple times praying for more grace to do the work, more empowering presence, more boldness. You know what I mean? Because he needed that stuff to minister. So that's what his prayers were toward. He wasn't praying that he live his best life. You know what I mean? Can you imagine Paul praying, I just want to live my best life? It wasn't like that. You know what I mean? You have the presence of God. What more do you have access to all that? You have the presence of God. But let's start thinking about the people that have no access to God. Let's start expanding our horizons into the people around us and to the people connected. You know what I mean? Let's start expanding, start praying outward instead of inward. And so what it is when you pray selfishly all the time, Jesus ain't interested. And I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. He's not interested because what happened is you lost sight. You just don't know who you are. You know what I mean? When you have to pray for yourself all the time, you just don't know who you are. You are the salt of the earth. You know what I mean? You bring the seasoning to the earth. You know what I mean? You make this place worth living. You are the light You know what I mean? When you start remembering that, you start to get your mind off yourself because you get more focused on what you actually have instead of what you don't have. And because what it is all that he has is ours. Jesus said, all authority on heaven and earth has been given unto me. Now you go. Now that the authority has been given to Jesus, now he's sending us. The example I have, I think about the prodigal son. In the prodigal son, Luke 15, if you read it, in the prodigal son, the father said something that was really key. And he didn't say it to the prodigal son. He said this to the son that stayed. He said, all that I have is yours. Almost like the son was with the father, but he didn't realize that he had access to everything that the father has. You know what I mean? He was like, you're not lacking anything. Everything I have is yours. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying to you now. All that the father has is yours. And it's not just for you. It is to preach. It is to expand the Garden of Eden. It is to, with the original instruction, expand the garden into those desolate lands. All that he has is available for you to go and do the work. Let's just get back mission-minded. Let's get our hearts not turned inward. Let's get our heart turned outward toward the world. And just like he said, all that the Father has is available for us to take care of that mission.
Thank you for listening to the Sidewalk Prophet Podcast. For questions and comments, please email us at churchpodcasters.gmail.com.